Sometimes tower defence games feel overly familiar, doing the same types of things but with different makeup and dress-ups. However, Bish Bash Bots try to do something different by merging together a tower defence game and the strategy involved in that with the more action-focused brawling aspect of a usual 1 to 4 player brawler. This game, which can also be played for 1 to 4 players, merges the two together, and they're really like a 50-50% effectiveness. So if you just rely on towers, you're going to lose the game. If you just rely on brawling, you're going to lose the game. You need to switch discipline, and it takes a bit of a left brain right brain moment, and particularly when you're playing with other players, you need to be coordinated in who's going to look after the towers, who's going to brawl, who's going to do this, that and the other. And as you go through the 32 stages in this game, the gameplay elements switch up quite a lot, which means that every level truly does feel different and unique and offers different challenges for you to overcome that keep morphing and changing over time. The first thing I want to talk about is this 50-50 split between a brawler and being action orientated and a tower defense strategy game. When you look at all of the negative reviews for this game that I was reading on Steam, almost all of them say the towers are pretty useless and underpowered and this game doesn't feel well balanced. And if I was looking at this purely as a tower defense game on its own, I would agree. These towers are placed in limited locations in levels. They don't have massive radiuses, so their opportunity to strike sometimes is quite limited, and they do feel quite underpowered. But it's only 50% of your arsenal. You are expected to be a very active brawler in this game, and the brawling plays into the strategy. So, hit the robots so that they get pushed back into the radius of the towers so that they can take another hit. You can activate a shield for one of the special characters that kind of blasts people backwards or out the way, and you can push half the robots sometimes down a ledge or off a cliff. So that can help for the ones that aren't being covered by towers. And you're always having to look at different ways to brawl to either stop the tide of robots or to push them in their flow in a slightly different direction so that you can get the most bang for your buck for the towers, because quite rightly, because this is a 50-50 split, those towers can't do it on their own. And I think whilst a lot of people's negative reviews might be valid, if you think about this game and play it like that, the game becomes much more balanced when you become way more active in participating in the brawler aspect. Now, when you're playing this with different characters, some characters are, I think, slightly unbalanced and one's better than the other. There's a character that enables you to have upgrade cubes, which levels up not only the damage but the radius and the fire rate for your towers. And that can be very helpful because if a well-placed couple of towers around, say, a hairpin, for example, can be extremely helpful. But what I really like about Bish Bash Bots is that the level design never stays still. Some of them are circular, some of them have towers in a cog that kind of goes round in the centre, so you have to keep changing lanes and disciplines for what you want to send out where. Some of them will have multiple lanes coming in from left, right, up, down, and so you have to keep on trying to spread out where your towers are going to be. And you can sell stuff and then move things around, but sometimes it feels like that's not the best way to go, and it's certainly not the most efficient, so you do have to plan out ahead of time. The game then sends out way more stuff as you add in more players, so that you have to take different actions. So someone might want to get out their hammer and bish bash upgrade the towers, whilst you've got others covering various different lanes and using your power-ups and additional abilities to try and push back those enemies or upgrade certain towers. You can almost overcook this in a way where you're trying to order strategy as you try and keep off all of the different waves from each other. I'd also argue there's a bit of a time management element to this, a bit like a Diner Dashy style game or a Build-A-Lot game, because once the level starts, waves will come regardless, and so you can't hold them back or trigger them or go into a build phase. It's all working in real time together, and so whilst you do get an advance warning of what the next wave's type of enemies will entail, you're never quite sure where they'll come from because levels are dynamic. There's one where roads and rocks will shift around, so different paths will open and close, for example, and that kind of opening up of doors or finding little secret hatches where new robots will appear from constantly changes as the level becomes more dynamic as you move through it. So yep, it's great. The second time around you'll start to know those kind of trends and work towards them, but it does mean that if you're playing this for the first time, you're going in blind, reacting to things and doing it in real time on the fly. And so because each level has a timed limit, it's all about that efficiency of place the tower, get working on the upgrade, hope you can reach that point to then move on and start hitting some people, and then coming back and doing it again. And again, it's back to that real-time strategy prioritization, particularly when you're playing with multiple people. You can, again, overcooked it. Alongside completing the levels, which involves protecting your machine and waiting for it to be 100% ready to send out its robot-killing electrical pulse, and that's timed and you can't do anything to speed it up, so that's what I mean when I'm saying like it's a time management game, because each level has a finite space for you to kind of defend until you're ready to go, and then you win. Each level also then comes with 2 additional challenges, and these will be things like only use up to 5 towers, or don't use the Tesla machine, or something like that, or don't use a special skill. And that's often leaning into something that would make the level slightly easier. So it then makes it a ultra difficult plus version of the level. And they're quite fun to try and go back and replay, particularly when you've got quite dynamic levels that shapeshift around. So sometimes when you first play a level, you're not quite sure what you're getting yourself into and you will lose. And then next time around, you'll be like, right, I know the strategy now, let's get going. And that's probably a slight negative that I'd give to the game, that it could give more obvious training as to where the enemies are kind of walking around and going. Sometimes it's a little unclear. Alongside that, as you complete levels, you'll unlock additional abilities that you can swap in and out of your characters. They all start off with 2 baseline special abilities, but can be swapped around to make them unique and tailored for whatever your makeup of your team wants to be. And there are cosmetics that you can unlock too, and they're quite often tied to the completion of levels and challenges. So it pays to kind of go back and have a second go and try and get some of those challenges, because you'll get cosmetic rewards and occasionally a little extra power up too. I really enjoyed this game. I really love the fact that the levels all feel unique and different as you go across the different worlds, finding weird and wonderful bosses, unlocking towers that are kind of helpful but can't fully do the job for you, so that you have to be really active and juggle between, should I upgrade a tower or should I smash everything to bits? And knowing what to prioritise when you're doing that is the key to success in this game. It scales well when you're playing with multiple players, and I apologise I don't have footage of multiple players here. I did play with 2 other people and 1 other person. I haven't played it in 4-player mode, but it did scale nicely to 2 to 3 players, and yeah, a big thumbs up from me. You don't really get cooperative tower defense brawlers in gaming, and I think Bish Bash Bots shows it can and should be done, and is a big thumbs up for an alternative look at tower defense games from me. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.